Okay, this is our midterm study guide. This will be part 2. Starting out at number 13, says find the perimeter of the figure. Perimeter is the distance all the way around. It's not the distance halfway around, it's distance all the way around. Your formula for perimeter, it's 2 times the length plus 2 times the width. It doesn't matter which one you call length and which one you call width. So your perimeter equals 2 times, let's say our length is 15 feet, plus 2 times your width. We'll call our width the other one 10 feet. Multiply those two by each other. 2 times 15 feet is 30 feet. And 2 times 10 feet is 20 feet. Still perimeter, still those plus each other. 20 feet plus 30 feet is 50 feet. So your perimeter is 50 feet. A cyclist travels at a speed of 12 miles per hour for 2.5 hours. Find the distance, so that's what we're looking for, D. Your distance equals your rate times your time. Miles per hour, that tells you your rate. Hours tells you your time. So all we need to do is plug those values in to find the one that we don't have. Miles per hour, since that's your rate, it's going to go in place of R. So 12 miles per hour times 2.5 hours is your time. So times 2.5 hours. That equals your distance. When you multiply 12 times 2.5, easiest way to do it, 12 times 2 is 24. And then it's times 12 times a half. Half of 12 is 6. So 30 miles is your distance. Right now, algebraic expressions for the phrase. First thing, sum means plus. So sum of b and 11, b plus 11. Product of g and 4, product means to multiply. So the product of g and 4, g times 4. You could also write it as g times 4 that way. Could also be written as 4g. So 3 separate ways to write the product of g and 4. Now number 17 is very specific. It says 4 times the sum of q and p. If you look at your order of operations, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, will tell you always to do multiplication and division before you do addition and subtraction. But this one says 4 times the sum of q and p. You need to find out what q and p is before you can multiply 4 times what's going on. So the only way to do the sum, which means to add, of q and p first, so q plus p, the only way for you to do that first according to your order of operations is to put it inside of a grouping symbol. So we need to put a parentheses around it. Then it says 4 times the sum. That means to multiply. So 4 times q plus p. And again, all 3 of these are acceptable answers for 16. And 17, this would be your best answer for 17. Evaluating u plus xy. You have 3 values for ux, separate values for u, x, and y. So in place, we know u's value is 18. So in place of u, we're going to plug in 18 plus x's value is 10. So in place of 10, we're going to plug in, x, we're going to plug in 10. And it's right next to y. That means they're multiplying y's value, which is 8. So 10 times 8. And then you just need to simplify it. Do your multiplication before you do your addition. 10 times 8 is 80. And 18 plus 80 is 98. Again, we evaluate an expression ab squared. Again, a and b are inside the parentheses, so we need to do that multiplication first. We know a's value is 4. So it's 4 times b's value of 3. 4 times 3 squared, you have to do what's inside parentheses first again. 4 times 3 is 12 squared, which means 12 times itself twice. And then 12 times 12 is 144. Okay. Again, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. If you need to write it out where you can follow it as a checklist, make sure you do that. Again, my dear Aunt Sally written together to where you don't skip over division and do multiplication, and same thing with subtraction and addition. Do what's inside the parentheses first, or the innermost one, because according to this, you have two sets of what we refer to as parentheses. That's one set, and this is another set. But P in this case, parentheses, the way the acronym works, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, just means grouping symbols. What you need to do is the innermost ones first. These are your innermost ones. 15 minus 3 gives you the number 12. That's still squared and divided by 4. Then you need to do your order of operations again. 12 squared would mean 12 times 12, which would give you 144 divided by 4. I forgot to write the 3 back on the last step, but it's going to be multiplied by 3. And then 14 divided by 4. 4 goes into 14. Let's see, 36 times. And then 36 times 3 would be 108. 21, we simplifying the expression. Do what's inside the parentheses first. 20 plus 12 is 32. Still multiplying by 4. And 4 minus 3 would be divided by, I know that's hard to see right there, but divided by 4 minus 3, which is 1. 4 times 32, 4 times 2 is 8, and 4 times 3 is 12. So 128 divided by 1, or anything divided by 1 will be whatever it is, 128. Again, the problem, just like one we had a few minutes ago, do what's in the innermost parentheses first. That's this part here. So 5 squared would be 25 minus 4 squared, which should be 16. Still inside those parentheses, those we hadn't did anything to get rid of them. 25 minus 16 would be 9. Again, still doing what's inside the parentheses. 6 squared means 6 times itself, or 6 times 6, which is 36. Again, that's just 6 squared. 36 divided by 9 is 4. What's inside parentheses? 4 plus 4 is 8. And 13 times 8 would be 104. Simplifying these expressions, negative 9 plus 6. If you need to think of a number line to where you can see what's going on with this, to where you don't make a mistake, think zeros here, negative 9 will be this way. If you're adding 6 to it, you're going to the right 6 times. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 would be there. And again, my spacing's not perfect, but that's how you're gonna know if some of y'all, when you do this problem, you'll get negative 15. Some of y'all will get positive 3. As you're doing it this way, you're not quite getting back to 0. What you need to do is 9 minus 6, since one of them is negative and one of them is positive. You subtract the absolute values. 9 minus 6 gives you 3. And since 9 has the higher absolute value, or it's farther away from 0, your 3, it's negative. Simplifying the expression again for number 24. That says those bars mean the absolute value. That means how far away from 0 is it? 18 minus 6 is 12, or how far away from 0 is 12. It doesn't automatically mean to switch the sign and make it a negative number. Some people, when they see those absolute value symbols, automatically just think, I got to switch the sign. No. How far is it from 0? Negatives become positives, but positives stay positive. This one, negative 15 minus c times negative 1. Had this said it in this order, it would be a whole lot easier for most people, but you don't treat it any differently. You still do negative 1 times both of those terms inside the parentheses since it's right next to it. So negative 1 times negative 5, negative times a negative would be a positive, and negative 1 times negative c, again, a negative times a negative would be a positive. If you looked at it this way, you do the same thing. Negative 1 times negative 5 would be 5, and negative 1 times negative c would be plus c. Notice that's the same answer. Okay, now we're evaluating inside of absolute value symbols. So this is the part that'll be a little tricky right here. This one says x's value is negative 2. As you're plugging it in, notice there's already a negative there. Then you're plugging in a negative 2. That'll be the part that'll stump people. Minus 2 times y's value, we have 3. So 2 times 3. So you have a negative 2. That just means a negative 1 times a negative 2, which makes it a positive 2. And then minus 2 times 3 is minus 6. We still haven't gotten rid of our absolute value bars. 2 minus 6, opposite signs again. One's positive, one's negative. Subtract them. 6 minus 2 is 4. And 6 is farther from 0. Its sign is negative, so it'll be a negative 4. But again, it's still absolute value symbol. How far is it from 0? It is 4 away from 0. So your answer, your simplified version is 4. B minus 2A minus C. Okay, values for B is 3. Minus 2 times A's value is negative 7. Minus, and then C's value is negative 7. Notice you have minus and negative again, just like on that problem just a minute ago. So 3 minus 2 times negative 7 is just like a negative 2 times a negative 7, which would be a positive 14. So 3 plus 14. And this is just like negative 1 times negative 7, which is plus 7. 3 plus 14 is 17 plus 7 is 24. This says negative 12, and that says divided by. It might be a little tough for you to see, but divided by negative 2. Just like multiplication, a negative divided by a negative is always a positive. 12 divided by 2 is 6, and it is always going to be positive. Negative divided by negative. This says A over B, or A divided by B. A's value is negative 6 over B's value is negative 2. A negative divided by a negative, just like a second ago, is going to be positive. 6 divided by 2 is going to be 3. And since it's a negative divided by negative, it's a positive 3. Negative 10z minus 28z. Now these are like terms. Both of them are z terms, variable terms. They both have a negative sign for each term. So that means you need to add them up. 10 plus 28 is 38, and it's z plus z, so it's 38z. And since they were both negative, you keep it negative. Again, if you need to look at a number line, you have 0 here, you're at negative 10 or negative 10z. If you subtract 28 more, you're going to go this direction. So that's why it becomes negative 38z. And we'll pick up the rest on the next video.